Hello and welcome to the Will to Win podcast. This is Alex Muir, helping millennial professionals reach peak mental and physical performance. And in today's episode, we have another special guest, Eric M. Twiggs. Eric is the CEO of your Procrastination Prevention Partner. He is the host of the 30-Minute Hour podcast. And Eric is also the author of The Discipline of Now, 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. Eric, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Hey, I really appreciate you having on this podcast. Thanks for sending me that invite earlier.
All right. Yeah, I didn't realize it was this simple. So, I've got
it's literally, it's literally like a conference call. It's really cool, and everything's done right within the app. So, and the beautiful thing about Anchor actually is if you don't already have your own podcasting platform, or if that's something that you don't use, the beauty is these episodes get published on all the podcasting platforms, especially all the main ones like Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Radio Republic, all those ones. So it's really, really cool way to, get interact with your, the audience and have, interview guests on. So it's really, really interesting experience. So appreciate you coming on this episode, buddy.
Yeah, good. Because I actually, my podcast is on Anchor.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, it's called the 30-Minute Hour.
30-Minute Hour. I like that. Mm-hmm. And how long have you been publishing your own podcast episodes?
About a year now. We started. Yeah.
Right on.
We started in February of last year.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. And then you also have a book out as well, right? And is that also called the 30-Minute Hour?
No, my book is The Discipline of Now.
The Discipline of Now. 12
Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you on because procrastination is like something that everyone struggles with. And I feel like sometimes what it comes down to is seeing things or experiencing how to deal with procrastination from a different lens. And everyone kind of deals with it a little bit differently. Everyone goes through it, but it's a matter of minimizing and mitigating the effects. So I'm really interested to hear what you have to say of kind of what your process is for people that, they are very disciplined, but they're going through the occasional bouts of procrastination, whether that be they're procrastinating, let's say, for a few hours or a few days. Like I know it can vary person to person. But I know for myself, like when I'm really into something and I'm really disciplined to something, like it's like you almost got to be obsessed about a goal. So it helps keep you on track. And then, but the second that you're a little bit less obsessed or fixated on it, then that procrastination, that's when that procrastination creeps in. So
Not only that, but if you aren't clear, one of the things I say in the book is that clarity is the starting point of success. So if you're really not clear on where you're trying to go, that can cause you to procrastinate as well.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And that tends to be when I'm having a harder time is like I'm lacking clarity. And what advice would you say to people who they have clarity, but then they go through their bouts where things or their career or their aspirations might kind of feel a little muddled at times, just when they're feeling maybe discouraged? What advice would you give people when they have a clear goal, but then they go through their phases, like we all do, when things aren't as clear as they usually are?
So what you have to watch out for is perfectionism, right? You're not going to always feel as motivated every day, but you have to focus on like the small steps in the direction of your goal and focus on progress. And I like to tell people that you can't allow perfect to become the enemy of progress. You just have to, you have to move forward. You don't have to have everything figured out to move forward. You don't have to always feel 100% inspired. There's going to be days where you don't feel like it. You're not as into it. You're just not feeling it, but you have to focus on progress. I mean, the small steps count. I mean, that's the key thing to remember. The small steps toward your goal count, and you just need to focus on making progress every day.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Because as I actually just finished an interview with a gentleman named Mitch Russo, and he worked with Tony Robbins. I actually had this interview a little while ago today, actually. And we had a really interesting conversation about that because I'm someone that I would, develop these really big, lofty goals for myself to help, because I need large goals to help myself stay motivated. But I would go through those phases, like you said, where if I didn't achieve that huge, lofty goal, I get really disappointed. And that was my only process and methodology was, I need the largest goals that I can have. And they got to be unrealistic because that's the only goals that will motivate me. If it's too small, I'm not motivated enough. But what Mitch was telling me was, it's all about, like you said, it's about the process and the progression and just one small step at a time. And I've definitely reframed my my methodology for attacking goals and getting rid of minimizing procrastination. And just by doing a millimeter of progress each day, that's what's been the catalyst for change for myself.
Yeah, that's excellent. So the other thing too is you have to factor failure into your success plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for example, like you, I'm like that too. I like to set lofty goals, but but people get discouraged when they miss the mark or they start to encounter failure and they stop. And that's why today is March 27th and most people have already bagged their New Year's resolutions and they're not even thinking about that anymore because you fail, you say you're going to do something, you don't do it, but you have to understand that failure is a part of the process. And if we learn from the failure and get back and move forward, you won't procrastinate.
That's right. So expect it, expect failure, and then just keep moving forward one step at a time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool about your book and your podcast. That's excellent information to know about because I know no one's really I've read a lot of books, but no one's really delved into details on procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
They've talked about decluttering your life, externally, but procrastination is more of an internal struggle that people have, right? And they need a different mental framework for that. And so it's really really appreciate you having it on to discuss this because it's a big topic, right? A lot of people struggle with.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that makes my book different from the other books on the topic is these other books that I find a lot of times there's a lot of one size fits all answers. Like you said, you got to declutter. Oh yeah, you got to be an early bird. Oh, you got to check email later in the day. But there really isn't a one size fits all answer. And the book that I put things in the book to help you no matter where you are. So based off of your personality type, based off of your genetics, you'll find specific tools that you can pull out and use to help you to overcome your specific issue of procrastination.
Oh, that's interesting how you talk about genetics and personality types because that's a big one. Yeah. Because like you said, there is no one size fits all. And when you talked about being a morning person, I've never been a morning person. And it's only just until recently I've just, I listened to, I don't know if you ever heard of that book, the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins.
Yeah. Very familiar with that. Yep.
Yeah. So I listened to that one recently. And one thing that she said that stuck with me to help me get my butt out of bed earlier was you got to have something in the morning that kind of blocks your analysis paralysis, right? Because the second that we wake up in the morning, the reason why it's not that we're not a morning person or a night owl, it's more of the thoughts that the thoughts that are with us when we go to bed and then when we wake up. So it's the mental framework we have before we go to bed. What are we thinking about? That's going to lead into the next day. So she talked about the reason why it's so tough for a lot of people to get up in the morning and then not hit the snooze button is because they need something to block that analysis paralysis. So what she said was she talked about um, like just doing a mental countdown in your head. So that's what started her this book, The 5 Second Rule, was she was watching a commercial and it had like a rocket like launching, right? And it had
Mm-hmm.
the countdown. So ever since she saw that commercial or that commercial for this TV show and there's a rocket about to launch, she says she's used that as her methodology for helping people beat procrastination and actually get stuff done. So, ever since I read it and I listened to
Mm-hmm.
it, like it made me a morning person because I just needed something to block out the internal noise. Because I don't know how you are, but like my internal dialogue can get really loud sometimes because I guess got all this, I'm just like, oh, I got to do this and this and this and this. So you need something to kind of counteract that internal chatter. So to counteract the internal chatter, I was just like, oh, in my head, I'm like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up, and doing that over and over and over again, like repetition, like it works. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Now it does work. I've had people like clients I work with that were procrastinating as far as calling an applicant to interview for the open position, and they would do that count backwards from five, and it would help them move forward. So the mental chatter piece is real too. One of the things I teach people on that is if you write down the things you have to do for the following day that night, that helps. That way you don't have as much chatter because you already know you already kind of know what you need to do. You've got it down on paper as opposed to having all those ideas floating around in your head.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's like doing your mental journaling for the next day.
Right. And then what happens is I find that, so let's say if I make the list the night before, then I go to sleep, then my subconscious takes over. A lot of times I'll wake up and I'll think of other things, like other really good ideas that line up with what I'm trying to accomplish. And I'm able to add that to the list. And it is much better. Yeah, I mean, it's much better as opposed to, I used to do that. Yeah, I remember I was a district manager. I had 500 employees. I was dealing with all kinds of things. And at night, literally, I would have, I have to have this conversation with this person. You have to fire this person. I have to this. And literally, that chatter was just going on and on and on and on and on. And that really helped when you can write things down ahead of time.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that's good to know. Yeah. Because I mean, I've journaled. I've heard of a lot of successful people, they journal first thing in the morning.
Yes.
Or they meditate or stretch, do yoga, whatever order they do it in.
Yes.
But yeah, writing down the goals before bed. I mean, I think I've done it before, but not like regularly. So I'll try that. I'll try that just to help, because I'm someone that I can go to bed like pretty easily and shut off my head. But some nights you're overflowing with information, right? And it
certainly
keeps you up.
Right.
So you got to store it somewhere, whether that be digitally or on paper. But on paper always works really well. So I'll try that.
And you know what? What happens is it builds confidence because you feel like you have more control of your day. It's like a little psychological edge it gives you. When you wake up and everything you've got to do is kind of written down already, you feel a little more confident. You feel like you're more in control as opposed to you just wake up and you've got all these things in your head and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to have this conversation.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I also see on here on your website, do you do lots of speaking engagements?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
I talk to church organizations, associations, government agencies, colleges, high schools. A lot of what I do is I do breakout sessions, workshops on overcoming procrastination, becoming more productive, and I do keynote presentations as well.
That's awesome. And have you done any like keynotes for like a TED Talk or anything like that, or TEDx?
Haven't done a TEDx yet, but that is something That's a goal of mine. I would love to do, because I really like that. Was it 18 minutes? That 18-minute format. I really love that. So that's something I would like to do down the road. I haven't done one yet.
Yeah, like I feel like the TEDx thing. I think that would be something that I'd be like in the future, definitely, like when I get to where I want to be and I start to get that following and that audience for my business. Like I definitely want to take it to like TEDx, do a TEDx or something like that, because it'd just be so cool. Because it's just you're just sharing so much value, right?
Yeah.
And like, do you know how large of an audience is it? Like when you're doing your 18-minute pitch on there?
I think it really depends, but I think from what I've heard, it could be 1,000, 1,500. I mean, you just,
oh wow,
could be. I think it really depends on who's hosting the venue. But I know of people. I mean, that those TED Talks have been a game changer for them. You know, they do the TED Talk, and then they get, I mean, the big thing with that is just credibility. When organizations see you've done a TED Talk and they can pull it up and watch it for themselves, and especially if you've got like 2 million views, that's helpful.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
So.
Oh yeah, I see in your website there the anchor. Yeah, your latest episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, my podcast is the 30-minute hour. The most recent episode was making the best of a bad situation.
Making the best of a bad situation, eh?
Yeah, we interview Dr. Vanessa Perry. She's a public health practitioner, so she gave some tips as far as things to do during this COVID-19 virus season. She even gave some tips as well.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you, like, how have you been finding your interactions with clients with everything that's been going on? Because by the sounds of it, you got to interact with the public a lot and be more one-on-one, face-to-face. But now with the COVID-19, have you been having more like conference calls with clients or FaceTimes or like Google Hangouts, stuff
I
like
was
that?
using Zoom a lot anyway. The Zoom meetings. I was doing a lot of those anyway, but I'm doing many. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So your day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what does a typical day in the life look like for Eric Twiggs?
So I'm spending the majority of my time working with clients, coaching them on how to be more productive, how to improve their business. I'm also I'll write blog posts and do things for the podcast. I do my own marketing of like on social media and things of that nature. So I'm usually spending my time. I'm either coaching someone or I'm marketing. I'm a frequent guest on podcasts like this. I mean, I've probably been on over 125 different episodes from different people.
Oh, wow.
So I'll send out my episodes, and so it's a lot of those little things every day.
Yeah. So coaching and marketing, main focal points during the day.
Absolutely.
And what time do you usually wake up in the morning?
I am up at 4:30.
Oh wow. Wow. Yeah, that is like Dwayne The Rock Johnson's routine, because he gets up at 4, right. I think. That's crazy. And what does the first hour look like? Do you work out in the morning, or do you do meditation? Do you just brew your coffee?
No, so when I wake up, that's a good question. It's funny because I ask all of the people on my podcast the same question. Yeah, that's good. So I wake up, I have my meditation time, and then from there I work out. I'll do cardio and crunches and push-ups, things of that nature. And that really just clears my head and really gets me psyched and ready for the day. Then from there I'll drink my protein shake, and then I'm getting at it. I'm usually sending out like a motivational video, or I'm I'm putting together like some type of blog, but I'm really ready. I feel like I'm ready for the day after I've gotten the workout in and gotten the meditation time.
Right on. And do you work out at the gym or just
well, now I'm forced to work out at my place with the latest. Before I used to go to the gym. Yeah. It was not too far. It was within 5 minutes of my house. But now I'm forced to go down in the basement and get my workout on.
Nice. And do you have do you use weights too, or mainly body weight?
Yeah, I don't really lift as much. I'm more into push-ups.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Right on. And then, what's your ritual before you go to bed?
So winding down, I like to prepare, make sure I've got my things written out for what I'm going to do the following day. And I also like to prepare, pick out the clothes I'm going to wear. Because you'll be surprised how just eliminating those little decisions makes a difference. So I'll lay out down to my socks, my underwear, the shirt. So when I wake up the following, I already know exactly what I'm going to wear. So one of my goals is to minimize a lot of those little decisions. And it really, you'll be surprised. You talked about the head clutter. That's another thing to do to minimize that, because when you wake up, and again, you feel like you've got more control over your day, because you know what you're going to wear, you know what you have to do. You're not fumbling around looking for socks. Everything. You wake up with an agenda and a plan.
Yeah. And do you do that type of journaling before bed?
I'll write it down. So I don't do it right before bed most of the time. Most of the time, it's usually as I'm winding down my day, I'll write down what I have to do for the following day.
Gotcha.
But if every now and then, I'll do it at night before I go to bed. But most of the time, I do it right as I'm ending my day.
Gotcha. And what time?
I try to get in bed by 10 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right on. But some nights might be a little bit later, depending on what you got to go.
Right. So I have 2 kids, and we're with all the changes, we're homeschooling the kids now. So sometimes 10 o'clock doesn't happen.
Yeah. Right on. And that's an awesome routine. Yeah. And what else? Yeah, I'm obsessed with time management, productivity, and how to combat procrastination. So I got so many questions about this kind of stuff. Now, in your book, when you talk about personality types and genetics and how they play a role in how much we procrastinate or how we can prevent our procrastination, what kind of examples do you have in there for personality types? Or,
for example, if you're that driven type A personality, you're focused on the big picture, right? You're focused on a lot of times people, and I share this personality, so you'll tend to procrastinate on some of the little details that you don't tie directly to your big goal. So it could be something like expense for it. You're recording your be household chores. You have to be careful, because sometimes you have problems if you put them off for too long. And so for that type of person, it's good to delegate that. And the challenge with that A-type personality, we tend to so we have a hard time delegating.
Yeah.
So that We want to do the thing.
Yeah, no,
so
sure.
the key is, just because something has to be done doesn't mean that you have to do it. Do you need a virtual assistant? Do you need, there's a lot of ways to get it done. So that's one example. Another example, you have people that they have kind of that motivator personality, where they're assertive, they're outgoing, they're life of the party, but they really don't like the details. So a lot of people that are good salesmen, they tend to fall into this personality type, where they're the life of the party, but they don't like the day-to-day details, and they'll put off anything that's not free and easy. So they don't like, they struggle with that attention to detail piece. If it's not fun, free and easy. So what I say for that is, you have a mixture of the different personalities. No one is just one personality by itself. So you may have some tendencies of some of the other personalities. So one of the things you have to do is kind of mix in.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you've got to do expense reports, you can listen to your favorite music, or you can listen to your favorite audiobook.
Yeah. You're linking a positive behavior with another behavior that you don't like. Yeah, that's something that I use, actually, because I despise doing laundry and dishes. I love cooking.
Yeah.
I can cook for hours and hours and hours, but the cleanup and stuff is so painful to me, because I know I got 1,000 dishes to deal with after. So I got to find something that correlates with something I do like to do, so then it forces me to do stuff that I don't like to do. So that strategy I actually learned from Atomic Habits, from the author James Clear. Absolutely excellent at talking about how to build new habits, or build on your existing ones. Because one thing that he mentioned in his book as well was, when you're building a brand new habit, a huge mistake that people make, which I've made time and time again, is I go too hard on that new habit that I'm building. I'm like, you know how you're supposed to do like a slow progression, or keep the same kind of, if you want to have large frequency, you got to cut down the time that you do something. If you want to have, if you want to be consistent, then you can't be doing it for 2 hours, 3 hours, an hour, like when it's brand spanking new, because your brain is like trying to adjust to this new routine, this new habit. So you can't go all out on it right away, because you're going to burn yourself out. So what he says is, any new habit that you're doing, he used meditation as an example. Meditate for 1 minute. 1 minute just each day. And then once you've done that 1 minute for like 2 weeks, then up it to another minute. Now you're at 2 minutes, and so on, right? So it's just a slow incremental increase in the duration of the habit. And then over time, as you adjust and you start to get into a rhythm, then you can slowly increase the time. Keep the same frequency, but you're just slowly increasing the time. So it's because certain habits do require more like time under tension, I guess.
Not only that, but so let's say you say, okay, I've never meditated before, but I'm going to start meditating 20 minutes a day. And just when you wake up and think, man, how am I going to meditate for 20 minutes? It just comes across that you'll be more likely to procrastinate, because it's overwhelming. As opposed to, like he said, if you said, I'm going to do 1 minute. Oh yeah, that's easy. That's doable. I can do 1 minute.
Yeah. It's crazy how that when he explained it that way, he's like, oh, just do 1 minute to 2 minutes for your new habit. And that's just like saying, if you're trying to build a habit of reading or listening to educational audio every day, same thing. Start off with like 2 minutes, because you just don't want to overdo it. You want to maintain that consistency. And one thing I can't stand is when I'm trying to build something up, but I'm lacking consistency. Right. That's one thing I'm trying to get better at, is I beat myself up because I go through these phases where I'm very consistent. Like I'm like knocking my small goals out of the ballpark, but then I reach a day where I can't get to my, my creative endeavors, as early as I wanted to, because something happens or something messes with my day.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I get very frustrated.
Right.
So I'm still working on that. But I'm like, what would you say when someone's been crazy consistent for, let's say, I don't know, the last few months, but then then that's when they start to procrastinate because they're like, hey, how do I get past this day? Like something's going on with this day. I'm just like, I woke up prepared, to tackle the day, but then
Well,
all of a
again, I
sudden it just
mean,
falls
it goes
apart.
back to what we talked about earlier. You have to factor failure into your success plan. That you're going to have, you don't intend to miss, but life happens sometimes. But the key, the critical thing is what you do after that. When you fall down, are you going to get back up or are you just going to stay down?
Right. So it's to keep going despite the hurdle that you missed you're feeling inconsistent or whatever. It's just to get right back
and
up
you just have to anticipate ahead of time that it's not going to be perfect. And your goal is progress.
Yeah. And how many blog posts do you put out each
so
week?
Usually it's at a minimum 1, but sometimes 2 to 3. So like for example, I do a post for my podcast. I'm always sending out an email, just kind of letting everybody know what the podcast is about. And I kind of usually tie some type of inspirational story to the writing, and then advertise that the podcast is out.
Mm-hmm. Right on. And then for your videos, do you utilize YouTube?
I do, but most of the time I'm doing Facebook Live. Yeah, like for example, if you go to you can go to the Discipline of Now Facebook page, and you'll see a series of my videos. So I do a weekly Monday motivation video, and it's usually anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes with some type of a motivational tip for my followers. And I usually do a weekly video. I have another page, the 30-minute hour. It's a Facebook page, a 30-minute hour. I usually do some type of video related to that as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got a lot of content on here. Okay. Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of business people, especially, they are really liking the Facebook Live because the clients like for spreading the message. Like people like to tune into live.
Right.
I feel like they're more engaged with live video over pre-recorded video because pre-recorded video you have more time to be more polished and have somewhat of a script. But when you're live, like it's all out there, you're vulnerable and people get to witness that. And I think people appreciate the vulnerability more because it's like, it's more relatable because if you like, slip on your tongue or whatever, they're like, oh yeah, I can trust this guy or this girl. And,
you bring up an interesting point, and it goes back to, because I can be a perfectionist, right? But I've had to live with it since I've been doing live videos. Things happen. You don't say something the way you meant to say it. You use the wrong form of speech. But you have to keep going. You can't. You're live. You have to. You have to keep. If you got 30 people watching you, you can't just say, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna stop and do that over again."
Yeah. And did you get help building your website?
Yes.
It looks like it's built on WordPress. Is it built on WordPress? Oh, okay, yeah. Because the layout's very similar to mine. And yeah, because I'm just looking at it, I'm like, yeah, because like it's taking me a while to learn,
right?
Because I'm like self-taught on WordPress right now. But like all of your your products and everything, how it's all set up.
Oh, okay.
Like that's the way I have mine set up as well. Like I have my I have my podcast at the bottom and my blog giveaway at the top. So it's just super cool just to see like the how yours
Okay,
are set
see,
up.
great minds think alike.
Yeah, yeah. And what else was I gonna say? Oh, and as far as building your audience, how did you start? Was it when you start to see that growth? Was it a combination of online and offline, or was it mainly offline because that's like
It's a mixture of both.
how your
And I
business
always
is
tell
built?
people, like, it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about taking the small steps, because there's no one thing you can do to build an audience, right? It's a lot. You see this, I'm sure.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
no,
lot.
for sure.
Like there's no one podcast you're going to
Oh yeah,
do. You got to do you have to podcast all the time. So right, even if you have an episode that
all the
goes
time, your whole
viral,
life. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
probably after you've done 50 episodes, you know. But
oh yeah,
so it's about
yeah,
consistency.
exactly.
So it's a
Yeah, yeah,
combination of for me, it's a combination of offline and online. So I could say I have the best success when I can speak in front of a group. So if I speak in front of the group, they're more
right,
likely
right.
to, sign up for my email communications and start following me. They're more likely to listen to the podcast. So I would say, yeah, if I can get in front of a group, that helps. But definitely, it's not just that. It's definitely staying consistent with the emails, staying consistent with the videos, because once you build an audience, they start to expect, okay, I'm going to hear from Eric every Monday. I'm going to tune in and get my Monday
Yeah,
motivation. But that's the
yeah,
key. I mean,
yeah.
but
No,
you
for
can't
sure.
think that, okay, I'm going to do this
That's
one
awesome.
video and then it's going to go viral. I'm going to have 3 million followers. Again, at least that hasn't been my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, for sure. Yeah. And have you ever been booked for any events or like interact with
No,
any
I
clients in
haven't done
Canada?
it. It's been in the
Or has it
U.S.
mainly been in the US?
I haven't gotten to Canada yet.
Oh yeah.
I, it's just like the TED Talk thing.
Oh, okay, okay.
I say
Cool,
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, I've been to a few spots in the US. I've been mainly on the West Coast because I'm from the
Yeah.
West Coast, in Canada. But yeah, because I've been to Vegas, California. Yeah, mainly just Vegas and California. But I definitely want to really check out the East Coast in the US just because, got to see like, Chicago. Apparently
Mm-hmm.
Chicago has like some of the best restaurants, I was told. Yeah,
I'm from
yeah.
Maryland.
And
Yep.
then you're from Maryland, you said? Maryland. Cool. Yeah. And
No, it's
what's it
good.
like out there?
It's hot in the summer, cold in the winter. Good metropolitan
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right on. Right on. Cool. Cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then I see here, this is another really good topic for discussion. Like people finding
Yes.
their struggling to find their true purpose in life. Now, can you speak to a little bit about that? Like for people that they kind of have an idea of what they want to do, they've tried a few different things, they're continuing to experiment, but they haven't quite found what they're meant to do, what their main um, their main occupation or career move is going to
Well,
be.
I would
What
say
advice would you have for people like that?
to kind of look like I think it was Steve Jobs. He said that during one of his presentations, and it really stuck with me, where he says that sometimes the dots only connect in retrospect, meaning sometimes you have to kind of look back and see, like for me, for example, when I got to a point I was trying to figure out what my purpose was, I looked back and I could see that I always felt the most fulfilled when I was speaking in front of a group. Like I was really, that stood out to me, that, when I had
Right.
jobs, when I was a corporate trainer or I was doing speaking engagements I was doing little presentations at the church. That's when I remember I would always sit there thinking to myself, man, you know what? I could just do this all day, every day. And I started to notice that was a pattern. And from there, I just followed. It's not a big. I think people think that all of a sudden this big piano is going to drop on them one day and tell them everything they're supposed to do. You're going to get this burning bush experience. It doesn't always work that way. So sometimes you have, kind of look at those things that you're passionate about. Yeah. So if you're passionate about serving, working with divorced women that are under 40, for whatever reason you seem to be passionate about that, just take the next step. And then a lot of times as you take those steps, the next step will kind of reveal itself. So that would be my advice. Go back and then also look at what you've been through. Look at a big challenge that you've overcome. For example, I know people that went through a nasty divorce and they came out on the other side. And so now they help people that go through divorce. I know people who they were bullied as a child and it was painful for them. So now they work with groups to help overcome bullying. So that's the other thing. Kind of look back, think about something that you have overcome. Or I know people that stuttered at one point, and now they help people to overcome it. So just really think about. I think we go through certain things in our life for a reason, and kind of look. If you look back, it helps you look forward.
Right.
Absolutely.
And those previous events help shape our future. I see. Yeah. And another question I have for you is what kind of books do you like to read? Since you got into like productivity and time management or beating procrastination, what kind of books were you reading or audio you were listening to that was like kind of moving you towards
Well, I'll tell you, like one of the books
procrastination?
One of my favorite books of all time is a book called Think and Grow Rich. Because it's foundational. Like if you're in business, and it really talks about like having kind of that primary aim in life, that dominant thought, and that really and that's really that whole thing, really being clear about where you're going and what you want to accomplish. So that's a book, and there's another book that's really good. It's called The 12-Week Year. Because the author's name is escaping me. I'll have it here in a second. But it's the book is titled The 12-Week Year, and the premise of the book, it's about how you should instead of trying to set annual goals, setting goals 12 weeks at a time, because that's enough of a window to maintain your motivation and momentum.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, and so the funny thing, like I was already teaching that, as far as kind of setting quarterly goals, just because I would work with people who they would set like an annual goal, and then usually by, April, May, we start to lose momentum, and they're not even talking about it. And I would ask, so how you coming with your goals? Oh yeah, what was my goal again? So if you're setting quarterly goals, I mean, it's enough time for you to really make progress, but it's a short enough window for you to stay motivated. So the author is Brian Moran and Michael Lennington. Yeah.
Interesting.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, because go ahead. I was just going to say, like when I was at the bank, because my background's in financial services and I did that for 4 years. But then I transitioned to marketing because I just have this creative side that I wasn't really able to explore in the bank. You can get creative when you become a financial advisor, but I was in the banking for a little while. And once I went from basically like a virtual bank where we had like a kiosk, and then I had to build my own clientele from all the people that I talked to in the grocery store. I would actually build my book that way. And then I went to the chartered bank. And then it just wasn't, I just wasn't enjoying it as much. It just wasn't my fit. So then I transitioned to marketing, and it was way more. I was able to be way more creative,
Right.
with ideas and trying to help my clients. And that's what I've learned about myself is like I like coming up with more creative solutions and really thinking about how I'm going to tackle a project. I like project based work rather than just like going like day to day to a job. I really like, as long as the job has like projects, I'm going like work on a project for a client. It just
And
feels
that's
so much more
good. So that shows that you have self-awareness. And a lot of people, they choose
Yeah.
careers because of the money or with the prestige or the title, or maybe their parent had
Yeah.
that career, as opposed to having that self-awareness that you have, where you know yourself to say, you know what, I work best in this type of environment.
Yeah. Yeah. Like more like freelancing. Like over time, I'm trying to transition to
Yes.
get to the point where I can do my business full time.
Yes.
I'm still working full time while I'm building it, but I'm building it in the little slivers of time that I have, which is usually ranges from 30 to 30 minutes or 45 minutes to like an hour and a half,
right?
Without burning out, right? Yeah. But I know over time I stick with it. You know how you build equity with your house? Well, another statement that business people say is you're building a business, whether it works out or not, you're building equity in yourself and
Absolutely.
in your idea over time. Yeah. So it's interesting stuff. Beating procrastination and trying to be more productive. Like everyone needs it. Everyone needs more different ways of looking at it, of how to tackle it. Yeah. Well, yeah. Did you have? Anything else you wanted to add?
Your listeners, they can pick up a copy of my book, The Discipline of Now. It's on Amazon. It's in audio format. It's on paperback, and it's in ebook format as well. I have a special just for your listeners where they can text a number. I have a 4-minute video that I put together, and it contains 2 powerful tips to beat procrastination. All they have to do is text the number 474747, and then they type in Twiggs time, TWIGGS TIME, and they'll instantly get a copy of the video. It's me giving 2 powerful tips to beat procrastination.
Right on. And which social media platform are you on the most?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook.
I think you mentioned it was
quite
Facebook,
often.
Right?
So they can go to the Discipline of Now Facebook page and just like the page, and they'll get my updates. And I also have a Facebook group. It's called Your Procrastination Prevention Partners, where I give more detailed information. There's a lot of videos. There's a lot of my podcast times I've been interviewed on other podcasts. So if you're serious about overcoming procrastination, you have to get on that page, because there's all kinds of great information about beating procrastination and becoming more productive.
Right on. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you having on today, Eric, and got some awesome information. I got lots of notes written down here. And then one more takeaway before we let you go. One thing that Tim Ferriss, I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss, his podcast. One thing he always tells his listeners or his guests is if you were to have a statement, a phrase, or a word on a billboard for yourself, what would it be? What would your message be to people?
If I had one statement, so my statement would be, don't allow perfect to become the enemy of progress. That's it. Right there.
Right. I'm just writing
Don't
it down.
allow.
I'm sorry, go ahead. One. Awesome. Well, that was a lot. This episode was a lot of fun, Eric, and I really appreciate having you on. And again, this episode was brought to you by radioguestlist.com. It's the number one free website on the internet to get guest interviews in radio podcasts and interact with guests on your podcast or radio show. So really appreciate having you on, and
hey, thank you. This was a blast.
Another episode in the future.
Hey, you take care as well.
Awesome. Take care, Eric.